waiting for a couple of minutes before people join in. So this is my first session online. So if I'm doing any goof ups here and there, please excuse me. All right. We are trying to set up a studio. We're trying to figure out how to have multiple softwares work at once. So we also have a YouTube stream that we are doing of this session. Right. Okay, I will start sharing my screen to begin with. So here. So unlike most of you who registered for a education license, what I have here is a startup license. Okay, so this license is registered to Just Robotics ID. So this is a startup license, and for students it will be an education license. Okay, cool. I hope all of you have installed Fusion on your computer. The previous video that we sent gives you a link which tells you how to install Fusion on your Fusion 360 on your computer. I am currently using a Windows system, but Windows and Mac and or Linux, all the platforms will remain the same, with very little changes. So what I have here is called the Fusion environment. In case you have any questions, just raise your hand or ask me questions. This session is gonna be, yeah.
What's the difference between your startup license and your education license? Because licenses are licenses and
Yes.
the layout is almost the same.
Yeah. So education license, it gives you the freedom to do any kind of designs, but then the challenge is you cannot commercialize your designs. So you've designed something and want to sell it to somebody, you can't use it for commercial purposes. Yes. And for startups, you may use it until unless you have I think there's a particular limit on the turnover of the company, and
people and
yeah, the number of users, and also
so right now I should just open up Fusion.
Yes, we open. Yes, we use.
How do you go to Fusion? It came to full screen. And it's not letting me get out.
Okay, so let me just try showing you how I do. So I basically sign out, and
I am actually in the webinar and I'm not able to leave the webinar. So I can go to Fusion.
Yeah.
So I'm not able to leave. See, suppose even I share my screen. So suppose even I do that, you'll only see my webinar. I cannot do anything else. Like I'm just stuck on my webinar. And I need this for
You got it? Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
All right. So,
Zoom's orientation is not bad.
okay, I'm going to mute a couple of you to till we finish. I mean, get started. Once we get started, I'm going to unmute all of you. Okay, so Fusion is a 3D modeling software. When we look at it as a simple thing, it's a 3D modeling software. We've all used Paint, right? MS Paint or some of the other 2D softwares to do some kind of drawing. Or even if I take a sheet of paper and I have to draw something on it using a pen or a pencil, I start doing it on a 2D plane. So this is called a 2D plane. A paper is a 2D plane. So if I have to draw something on a 2D plane like this, I have to take a pen and draw. So if I have to do the same thing on a Fusion environment, first there are some settings that I have to take care of before I begin drawing. The first setting is here, which is the document settings. What I do in document settings is I click on this arrow. You see these units? This is one of the fundamental settings that you need to take care of before you do any kind of drawing. It says units is in mm. Mm is millimeter. Now there are three things that you can do: either go with mm or centimeter or meter, or inches or foot. Now you have SI units, which is the System International Units. We prefer using millimeter for drawings that we do where modeling is involved in terms of robotics and things. But when in terms of larger drawings, say if it's a building or if it's a huge structure, then we'll go with foot. Okay, so by default it is millimeter, so just cross check if this is what it is when you open Fusion. The next thing is I have to save my file. That's the reason I see this as unsaved if I have not saved my file. So I save my file, save, and I have to save it as, let me tell, this is my let me name it Fusion Demo Hangout. Okay, so this is my file name, and where is it saved? There are a lot of folders, a lot of projects that I have created. So it gets saved in a folder which says Brijesh's first project. Or I could change it. Now if you see here, it says Fusion Demo Hangout V0. V0 means version, or V1 is version. Now you can have multiple versions of this file, which means tomorrow you do some changes and then you want to go back to a previous version of the file, you still have options to do it. And everything happens online. I mean, right now whatever I am designing is getting uploaded to the cloud, and the data is present in the cloud as well. Now there are cases where you can actually design offline. Okay, right now it's working online. I can design offline as well by changing this to work offline. Now working online, the advantages, any changes I do, I don't have to always keep saving. It gets updated, and in case something goes wrong, I can always switch back to the previous version. Alright, let's get started. Once I have this, let's just go around and see the few tools available on Fusion. Now this is different environments or workspace that is available for you. By default it is design. You also have render, animation, simulation, manufacture, drawing. Now what does design do? This is a workspace where you design the model. What does render do? Render is a process of creating a 3D model of what you've created. So if you see the picture here, when you click on render, the one that you see is it's a 3D model, right? Now when you see a lot of these pictures with concept cars and all of that, these concept cars are designed and rendered in a particular environment so that it looks, how would an object look in real life. So that is something that they do when they render. This render also gives you options of setting lighting conditions, shadows, so you make the model realistic and how it looks in real life. Now animation is specifically for checking how your 3D model works. Suppose you have some rotating components or a movable joint and you want to test how this movable joint works, so you use animation. In simulation you do things like stress analysis. Suppose you've created a particular a complex object and you want to understand where all the stress forces are, when you apply force, where is it going to break, or is the model strong enough to hold a particular pressure or a particular weight on it. So you do simulation to understand how your the structure of your model. Manufacturing is when you want to export this file for manufacturing. It could be a CNC machine or a 3D printer, or it could be as simple as laser cutting. This is where you use manufacturing process. Drawing is to create drawing, a 2D drawing of your 3D model. Now when we did 2D model and 3D model in school, we also studied about how we look at top view, side view, front view of different objects, right, 3D models, and then we drew it. So when you want to create a drawing of your 3D model so that you can take a printout of it, you use this option for drawing. So these are the different workspaces available. So we're going to start with design. Now this session is going to focus on the basics of Fusion, just to get started, and then you can explore it on your own. I'm just going to give you examples or hints or clues as to how you can get started, and then you can get started on your own. There are different directions you can take this to, but these will be the fundamental information that you need to know before you get started. Now this is the space where you can create. What I see here as solid is where you can create. Now you have options for surface, sheet metal, tools. This is something that we're going to come as time goes, but in solids I have option for create, modify, assemble, construct, inspect, insert and select. We're going to start with create. Now this is my space. What you see as a white blank space here is the space. I can change the space. Suppose I want the grid. You see the grid available on my screen now. I don't want the grid, I remove it. So it's a good practice when you get started to start with a grid, so it's easy, you know where you're placing what you're placing. Now also there is option here for you to see on the top right corner, which is called the view. How you want to view the object that you're going to create. Usually it is in the home setting. When you click on home, it's going to give you an isometric view, a view that usually you would see from one corner, right? Let's get started. When I get started, as I said, any drawing that you do, a 3D model just doesn't happen. You have to first create a 2D model and then build a 3D model on it, right? Even 3D printing works the same way. First you do one layer and then one more layer and one more layer, and then it goes on. Now to do this, I click on create, and then there's this option called create sketch. That's what you do when you have to draw. You create a sketch. So you create sketch. Click on create sketch. You will see three planes that come in. This is plane A, plane B, plane C. Now what are these planes? These are the 3D planes. Consider this dot to be a corner of the room. This is the floor. This is one of the walls. This is the other wall. Now this 3D plane, you can choose whichever plane you're going to start your 2D model with. Suppose I am doing a cube which is lying on the floor. I select this surface. And suppose I am doing a window, I select this surface. But irrespective of which plane you select, you can always get back to the other plane by using these view settings. So we usually select the bottom plane. So this is the bottom plane. I'm going to select the bottom plane. Once I select the bottom plane, I have, this is my top view. I can start drawing. Now for drawing, let's say for example start with a simple cube. I have options of selecting rectangle. There is no square. Note that there is nothing called square here. A square is also a rectangle. So I select this option called center rectangle. I keep it in the center and drag my mouse. When I drag, I would have also already left the left click button. I'll do it again. Click on create, go to rectangle, click on center rectangle, leave your mouse, click on the center and drag it around. Now before you leave it, you can see two things here. On the left side it says 61, on the top it says 90.810. Now what's happening here? It is asking me to specify the length and the breadth of the rectangle. Suppose I want to make a square, I can say 50 and I press this button called tab on my laptop or my keyboard. When I press tab, I see it goes to the next breadth setting. So there also I type 50 and then I press enter. Now when I do this, this object is all black in color. When I say black in color, what does it mean? It primarily means this sketch that I have created is bounded. What do you mean by bounded? This has a reference center. This is the origin where my sketch is placed. It is 50 mm in breadth and 50 mm in length. It has all conditions. There is no case where I have to move it around here and there. Okay. Now for example, I create another rectangle. This is only for example. I create a rectangle somewhere here. You see this is not black in color, this is blue in color, primarily because I can move this around. It is still not bounded. It is not bounded with respect to what is the exact dimension or how far is it from the origin. Get it? Okay. Getting back to making our cube. Now once I did the top view, I click on the home view here. You see this is my object. This is a sketch I have created, which is a square, and using my scroll button I can zoom in and zoom out. Okay. Suppose I want a different orientation or a different view of how this thing looks. I press the space button and the scroll button or shift button and the scroll button and change it around. Suppose I want to reset my view, I just click on this and it's reset the view. Now this settings, whether you want to rotate it when you press the shift button or space button, is something that you can make settings on your own. You have shortcuts on the keyboard which is available that you can make setting, but for now by default, if you want to rotate it, you can. If you want to move it, you press the center scroll button and move it, and you want to rotate it, you hold the shift button and then press the center scroll button and then you can rotate it. Okay, cool. I'm just going to click on the home option. It gives me the home view. Okay. Now once my 2D model is ready, or 2D sketch is ready, I have to create a 3D model out of this 2D sketch. When I have to create a 3D model, I have option called in solid modify. Okay. In modify, the option is okay, cool. Sorry, coming back. I have an option called extrude. It's still a 2D plane. I have an option called extrude. Click on extrude and click on the surface that you want to extrude. This is the surface, this is the plane that I want to extrude. And which direction do I want to extrude? I want to extrude it in the upward direction, which is my y-axis. Now how far should I extrude this? Again, before I press enter, I have option to change this value. I can change this value to 50 because I wanted to have a cube, and then I press enter. Now what you have here is a cube. If I have to rotate it all around, it's a cube. One interesting thing about cube or about Fusion is the way you will be able to do these changes or go back in time and make changes. Now look at this particular block here called the timeline. It is actually called the timeline. What is the advantage of timeline? It's that you can go back in time and change the parameters that you have set. It's like going back to the past or going to the future and doing changes so that you make the edits that are necessary. So I wanted the sketch, and I now make a decision to change the dimension to say 100 mm instead of 50 mm. Now I have two options. I can delete all of this and create all over again, but another option for me is just go here, right click, edit the sketch that I first created. I click on edit sketch, and you see it's written 50 and 50. I change this 50 to say 100, and I change this 50 to also 100. Get it? Okay, now what I do is I have this option called finish sketch. I click on finish sketch, and now it's 100. What did I do? Oh yeah, I did not extrude it back to 100, right? That's the reason why you see this as a cuboid, which is of height 50 mm or 5 centimeters. So I go to extrude, right click, and edit the feature. I edit the feature that I gave, which says 50 mm. Instead of 50, I specify 100, click enter. Now I got a cuboid or a cube which is 100 mm in all sides. 100 mm is 10 centimeters. Suppose I want to 3D print this. All I have to do is select this and then 3D print. There are different options available for 3D printing, and that 3D printing option is what we will look as when we go further into the course. Okay, couple of important things that I want to show you here is this. Look at all this structures that are present, or the options that you see here. We looked at document settings where we had to mention the units with as mm. That is done. The second thing is the name views: top view, front view, right view, and home view. Okay, that's not important right now. Origin, you see the origin, that's the origin. And then the most important thing is this sketch. If you see this option called that you see as an eye, when you click on that, it is visible. When you click again, it becomes invisible. Now a good way to look at it is, look at this body. This is the body. We created one body. This is the body, and this entire thing is a body. Now this body I want to hide. When I click on hide option here, it gets hidden. See this? Same thing. When I want to hide all the bodies, I click on this. When I want to hide the sketches, I click on this. Now what I want to do again is create a what we call as another sketch on this body so that I can create a hollow surface on this, right? I want to create a hole in the center. Now for me to create a hole in the center, there are multiple options. I can go create a circle here and then extrude it downwards. I can create a circle here and extrude it upwards. There are multiple options available. Or I could go to the sketch that I initially created, and in the sketch itself I make a circle and then extrude the entire thing. So let's see all the three options. The first option for me to go to sketch and create a circle. So I have an option called circle here. Click on this, my circle. I want the dimension of the circle to be 50 mm, which is the diameter of the circle. Enter. Now I'm asking to create, go to extrude, finish sketch. Now when I click on extrude, I want to edit the feature. Here, instead of selecting the entire thing, okay, instead of selecting the entire thing, what I do is I select only the outer surface for 100 mm and say okay. Now this is one option I have. I created this. Okay, this is one way of doing it. There's another way of doing it. I'll press Ctrl Z, or there's an option called undo finish sketch. Okay, so that I go back. Now what's the other option I have? I can create a circle on top of this and then extrude it downwards. How do I do it? So if I have to create any sketch, any model, I have to create a sketch first. So we have to create a sketch. I right click on the surface or the plane on which I want to create. I'll say on this I want to create a sketch. Okay, which one? On this. This is the plane on which I want to create a sketch. Now for me, top view will give me an advantage. So then I click on circle. I want a 50 mm and click OK. Now look at this. The interesting part about this is you see two sketches here. One is the square that we created in the beginning, and this is the circle that we created now. Now what I can do is, this sketch I want to extrude it downwards. So I click on, first I finish the sketch, then I press E and click on this and go downwards. The option that I have for downwards is minus 100. When I say minus 100, it goes downwards. You see this? So these are the two options. Now the advantage with doing this is, now you see here, this is my first sketch, this is my second sketch. Suppose I want to increase the diameter of the circle. I right click, edit the sketch, and I double click on this 50 and make it 80. And then I say finish sketch. Look at this. So the advantage for me is I can go back in time and be able to change any of these parameters, provided these are not dependent parameters. If one parameter is dependent on another and then it's dependent on another, you make changes in one thing, it makes changes in all of those dependent things. So that is something that you'll have to be careful about. Now this is one thing that we did. In the next session we're going to learn about how we can make parameters so that I change in one point and then everything else changes for me. Okay. Now this one thing is done. Let me just show you how these things look. Yeah, I hide the body, but I want to show the sketches. See, these are the two sketches we did. One is a circle, one is a square. Show the body. Okay. Now the important thing about learning Fusion is it's parametric modeling. This is called modeling by parameters. Now what is modeling by parameters is very simple. You have this thing where I save this and I'll create a, okay, this version is final. I have finalized this version. Okay, how about we do parameters in the next session, but I'm going to teach you another important thing here where I want this thing to, you see the sharp edges, I don't want the sharp edges, I want the edges to be sanded, or I need a fillet. For fillet I have this option, create, oh not in create, now it's a solid, right? So I want to modify this. When I want to modify, I have this option called fillet, click on fillet, I can select this and I can make a fillet. Okay, this fillet is defined in terms of radius. So the radius I would say is about 5 mm and enter. Now let me just show you the front view of this. You see this here? What happened on one of the edges, it is round. This edge is round. Suppose I want to do it on all the sides. How do I do it? I can click on this, I can click on this. I'm holding the shift key. Click on this, click on this, this. I'm holding the shift key when I'm doing this. I've selected all the edges. Once I select all the edges, I click on the option called fillet, and here I define the fillet to be 5 mm, 5 mm, and say OK. Now you see this? All the edges are 5 mm. Or I have another option, I just go back. When I did only one surface or one edge, I click on this, right click and click on edit feature, and here you see this thing called edges or faces of feature selected. Here I'll select one. Oh. Three, 4, 5. You can see that all of these are 7, 8. How many edges to a cube? 12 edges. Okay. I want the fillet to be 5 mm, and then I click OK. Okay. So I got this fillets done. So this is what we will do for today. If I have to save it, I save this. I say this is final version. Okay. Where do I find this? I will find this file here where I have done it for this one here. This is my file. What do you see? This is the file that I've created. There are 3 versions because I've saved it 3 times. I can go back to any of the earlier versions I had created. Okay. And this is my data folder. Now if you want to share this with somebody, it is easy again. What you can do is click on people and share it with people. I say I want to share it with Vibhav at Just Robotics .in, and I invite him. So I send this to Vibhav. and Vibhav can access this from his. So Vibhav can also access this from his Fusion software. Now, when you design something and you wanted to 3D print or you want me to check some things, you can share it with me, and I can check and I can leave a comment telling this is what changes you'll have to make. Okay. So this is what we do. We have about 2 minutes left before the session ends. You have any questions you can ask. I'm gonna just save this, close this, and click on the home view and keep it ready. Any questions?
Sir, if you want, yeah, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, if you want the direction to be either left or right, what would you write then?
What direction?
Like I start from 0 and I want say right. I want to go towards right and move to 100. How would I move to 100? Like for down you can write minus 100, so it moves down. So how would you write for left or right?
Okay, quickly, I create a sketch, rectangle. Hold on. This extrude. There's only one option. You can either go up or down. There is no left and right.
Okay. So you cannot move diagonally also?
You cannot move diagonally. Suppose you want to move diagonally, there are different other options. So you have this option. You see revolve, option called revolve, or you have options like loft. We're going to come to it. Sweep. Okay. So you cannot see any 2D two object. If I would want to push a wall, I can only push a wall in one direction. If I want to push it in the other direction, I need somebody else pushing it from the other direction, and only then it moves in the diagonal direction. So here we only apply force, or we pull it up in this direction or this direction. Suppose I want to pull it the other side, I click on this, extrude, and I pull it the other side.
Okay.
Okay.
So sir, if you want to create a slope, how will you create a slope, like a right angle slope?
Here?
So you're saying cannot move it left or right. You're saying cannot move it left or right, right? So how can you create a slope when you want to create?
So what I do is I'll create a line on this surface. I want to create a line from here to here, and then this one I'm going to extrude it off.
Oh, you just delete that part?
Yeah, kind of.
Oh, what do you do with that? Wait, what?
Okay, I want you to experiment.
How did it?
I created a line on this surface. I clicked on extrude.
Yeah.
And then extrude, I extruded it. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, Jit.
Hello, sir. Jay. Sir, I joined the meeting 10 minutes late. So I just wanted to know the app that you use for it.
It's called Fusion 360. I'm gonna message you the link.
Okay, and so you had started from the center. Is there any way to start from the? Is there any other way to start from another square?
You can. You may. Yes.
Okay, thanks, sir.
No problem. I'm sending you the link.
Yeah. And if I want to share to you, so I just send that to people.
Sorry?
If if there's a, is there any for me to send it to you?
Yeah, you can send it. Brijesh@justrobotics.in.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right. Yeah. So what we do here is I'm just going to show this again. We create a line on the surface. Let me do it again. Okay. Going back. Okay. I want to make a slope on this, right? I can do it by two ways. One is creating a fillet here, and I say I don't want it to be a radius, but I want it to be, no, I cannot do fillet. No, I have to do some other way. Okay, so what I do is I shift this. I know I want to chop this off. This area I want to chop it off. So I'm going to create a sketch on this. So right click, create a sketch. And when I create a sketch, I say go to line. I want from here to here. Okay, and then I want to remove this entire portion. Okay, so what I do is press on, this is done, press on extrude, click on this surface and extrude it for whatever dimension that is, 75 mm, and press extrude. Now this is primarily because what you see in terms of distance, this is not 75. Yeah, it is not 75. It is 75 point something. Okay, so otherwise you have another option where I click on this, edit that feature. I say not to 75, not to distance, but to the object. What object? To this object, and say OK. Now you see, if I have to zoom out, you can see that you have the slope that is created. Okay, so this is the introduction to Fusion 360 session. We are done with it. We are going to end the live stream now. You have any questions, you can leave it in the comments and we will get back to you, or leave us a mail or message and we will always solve it. We will have our next session on Sunday, around the same, not on the same time, we'll be having the session in the morning. More details on the session will be sent across to you by the regular medium that we have sent it through. There's another place where you can find the sessions available for you. It will be on our website, www.justrobotics.in/hangouts, and all the sessions that we do will be listed down there, including the next future sessions that we're going to conduct. Thank you so much for being part of this session. I would love to see you all again from the next session as well.
So when is the next session?
The next session is going to be on Sunday. It's going to be in the morning. I'll give you the exact timing probably by tomorrow.
Okay, sir.
Okay, cool. All right, bye-bye. Okay, yeah, so the next session is going to be on Sunday. Somewhere in the morning, I'll give you an update on what time it is. Thank you for being part of this session. It's our first session that we have done this way with a very professional setup. Hopefully, it was professional. We'll see you again with more number of people joining in the sessions. Until then, bye-bye.